New York Giants fans, or maybe just people that are joining me because you want to disagree. I'm cool with that too, by the way. Don't mind it at all. A little discourse never hurt anybody. We are in day 2 of free agency, or the tampering period, whatever we want to call it. They should just call it free agency, right? We're in day 2, right? I am really interested to know how you guys are feeling about the moves that have been made. Today, the big move, I guess, the big move would be that the Giants got a cornerback to replace Cordell Flott. But was it the cornerback that the Giants should have been targeting? I have questions. As always, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of A Giant Issue. I'm Coach Gene Clemons. New York Giants on that side. That's where you get all of your New York Giants news and information. Make sure you go over there and see everything that we're doing over there in that space. Check out all of the things that are out. My Good, Great, and Ugly on Isaiah Likely is out. Be tuned for my Edmonds Good, Great, and Ugly that probably will be coming tomorrow, hopefully. And then all the other stuff that I do over there. But first, before I get started on any free agent stuff, just let me have a couple minutes. Let me have a couple minutes. And in just a couple minutes, if you're watching out there, you guys know I could just ramble on. So if I start rambling, hit the comments and say, hey, yo, coach, you're done, right? But give me a couple minutes. I mean, like 2 minutes. I see all of the comments about Darius Slayton, and I see all of the people who only ever talk about the drops, and it's cool. Talk about he's had some drops, and I see these compilations that get put together of years of drops, right? Years of drops that they put the compilation together, and I wonder to myself, well, are the Giants just not seeing what you guys are seeing, or do they not only focus on the negative but also focus on the positive as well? Right? I did my Good, Great, and Ugly on Isaiah Likely, and I put the ugly up, and I said that the ugly was his inline blocking. And of course, people who come on and see the video, see the little clips that I put up on X that I didn't use in my article, they all just go right to the ugly. They don't even acknowledge the fact that I had a good or that I had a great. They only acknowledge the ugly. And I think that's a part of who we are as a society, right? We tend to focus on the negative more than we focus on the positive. I've spoken about this before when it comes to my Good, Great, and Uglies, how the ugly will get double the amount of reach that the good and the great get. But in terms of Darius Slayton, does no one ever stop and ask themselves, what would happen if, in fairness, if I made a video about all of his drops? What if I then juxtapose that by all of his great catches, all of his explosive plays? Stack them up, right? Stack them up against each other and ask yourself, are we winning? Which one is better? Stack those guys up and ask yourself, which one is better? Which one moves the needle? Right? I think it would be overwhelming, right? I think it would be overwhelming that the positive for Darius Slayton outweighs the negative. And yet, the only thing we ever hear people talk about is the negative. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm willing to admit, all right, listen, he's not a number 1 wide receiver. I still believe that if he got number one wide receiver targets, he would put up ridiculous numbers. But he's not a number one wide receiver. Look at what he's doing as the number 3 wide receiver. That's pretty darn good. Where are you going to find production like that, even with drops from a number 3 wide receiver? Can we not at some point look at the positive of this man? He always goes to bat for teammates. He's always talking positive about the ball club. He's always like trying to show and present the Giants in a positive light. And all people do is defecate on him. All you do is crap on him. He's winning in life. Have you not seen his girlfriend, fiance, whoever she might be right now? Have you not seen her? Did you not see like how talented she is? You should be hoping for nothing but wins from him so that he and her have a baby that could one day be a number 1 overall pick for the New York Giants. I digress. And I'll get back to I digress, and I'll get back to all of the free agency stuff today. The most recent news, and people have talked about it in the comments already. We got a fullback, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, hold the presses. The New York Giants will be employing a fullback, and not just any fullback, the best fullback in the game. I think he's better. I think he's better than that guy over in San Francisco, because I think that guy over in San Francisco wants to be a glamour position, and all Patrick Ricard wants to do is knock people out. I think that this is a home run, because when you put Patrick Ricard in front of, right? When you put Patrick Ricard in front of a guy like Cam Scatterbo, you're never going to see Scat. You're just going to see Ricard run you over, and then Scat's going to pop out of somewhere. This is a big get. Patrick Ricard is like having an extra guard on the field with an eligible number on. You're going to see the difference in the run game immediately. I love the fact that they're going to get pieces that fit the style of offense that they want to run. By the way, just some breaking news. The Ravens have backed out of the trade agreement for Max Crosby. That is on ESPN, so it is a real story. I don't know what's going on, but that's big. Like, that's huge, right? So they have a fullback. I think that's huge. The kicker, the punter, and now the kicker, Jason Sanders from Miami. Like, now the special teams have flipped over. Now the special teams have flipped over, right? Can you guys tell me, is anybody willing to go back on the McGahee was the problem and admit that the special teams were just constructed less than stellar? Or are we just going to roll with this, that these special teams coordinators were just bad only with the Giants, but not bad anywhere else? And again, because this is huge news and it's breaking as I'm talking, and I know it's not Giants business, but it's huge. And that is Max Crosby and the Ravens have backed out of the Max Crosby trade. This tells me, right? This tells me there's something in the medicals that the Ravens didn't like. So I know that a lot of you are going to say to yourselves, oh, let's go get Max Crosby. Let's try to put a package together for Max Crosby. The problem is, right? The problem is that if Max Crosby isn't healthy, if Max Crosby isn't ready, then right? So You definitely don't want to do that. I'm sure Max Crosby will be okay. I'm sure that the Raiders will find another suitor. This could be cold feet by the Ravens, who have lost a lot of, they've lost a lot of people in this offseason. A lot of players who, a lot of people said that Harbaugh wore out his welcome in Baltimore. Well, here's another Baltimore Raven willing to come and join up with Harbaugh on this ride. And don't tell me that Patrick Ricard didn't have anywhere else to go. Like, he had places he could go. He chose, right? He chose to come to the Giants. I think that says a lot. I love it for the Giants. I love the fact that they have a new kicker. I love the fact that they have a new punter, right? I love the fact that they brought back Gunnar Olszewski. Those are great moves. Great moves. And moves that have been made on day 2 of free agency. But there's one big move that I got to talk about. One big move that I just don't know if I'm rocking with. One big move that I'm like, right? Because ultimately, I think you could have done better. Oh, by the way, shout out. The Giants finally re-signed a homegrown product. Micah McFadden comes back. They agree on terms. They must have got him for like a pretty insignificant amount of money. But they also announced that they agreed to terms with Greg Newsome. And so, full disclosure, I want to lay this out to you. Last night, right? Last night, I was putting together an article that talked about what the pivot would be, right? What the pivot would be since the Giants lost Cordell Flott, which, by the way, I hated. I thought the Giants fumbled. You should have got that. You should have got that extension done with Flott before you ever got into free agency. That should have been done during the season when we had all acknowledged that he was probably playing the best out of every cornerback there. They lost out because maybe the Titans paid him a little bit more, but from what I'm hearing, the Giants package was very attractive, and the Titans came with an idea of how to use him that essentially he thought was better. Cool. So once you lose out, once you lose out on Cordell Flott, I can't quite understand, right? You lose out on a guy who was a 24-year-old guy who was 4 years into the league, a speed guy, a guy who has length on him. So then you pivot, and I'm writing up this piece, right? The piece is entitled how the Giants pivot after losing out on this free agent. And the free agent was Cordell Flott. So in my mind, I'm pivoting to Tyreek Woolen, right? Reek Woolen. Perfect. Long, athletic guy who plays man-to-man, right? Who's a man corner, who is 6'3", 6'4", athletic, right? All the speed, has a little bit of edge about him. You got to kind of walk him back from the ledge. So I'm thinking of this guy, and as I'm finishing this thing up and I upload it to submit, maybe 30 minutes later, this is in the morning, first thing in the morning, it is announced that the Giants have come to terms with Greg Newsome. Greg Newsome II is a former first-round pick, 26th overall pick of the 2021 draft by the Cleveland Browns. He started for the Browns until last year. He was starting, and then he was traded a few games into the season to Jacksonville. And then over at Jacksonville, he didn't play very well. He wasn't that great. And during this offseason, right, they decided they weren't going to bring him back. They decided that they had other people that were more valuable, other people that made more sense for them to go out and get. And so they went with those guys. They had those guys, on their mind to try to bring back. So instead of the Giants spending a little bit of extra money and going after Tariq Woolen, they brought in Greg Newsome. The problem is that Greg Newsome doesn't seem to be as sticky in coverage as he used to be. Now, he's still not old. He's only like both of these guys are the upper mid of 20s, right? But Tariq Woolen, who kind of fell out of favor in Seattle just out of sheer numbers, they had a good amount of young defensive backs. Again, he can play a little bit beyond the whistle, maybe talk a little bit more than you like. So I think it was easy for them to be able to move on from Rick Woolen. But the Giants not only did not secure Rick Woolen and went out and got Greg Newsome, but they let Rick Woolen go to the competitor. So now they have to deal with Tariq Woolen because he's an Eagle. Come on, Giants. Like, I'm rooting for you. And again, maybe Greg Newsome can get back his 2023 form, but his 2023 form was never to the level of Tariq Woolen. That 2023 form was never to the level of what Tariq Woolen's highest level was in the NFL. Don't believe me? Don't believe me? Watch this. Rick Woolen's 26 years old. He allowed 2.7 yards per target playing man coverage in 2025. Yeah, you heard that right. 2.7 yards per target playing man-to-man. Those are NFL next-gen stats from ESPN Insights. The most interceptions in man coverage, right, since 2022. Tariq Woolen is third. He has 8. Right? Rick Woolen was third. He has 8. Kirby Joseph is first. Jesse Bates is second with 9. Joseph with 10. Bates with 9. Rick Woolen with 8. Derek Stingley Jr. with 8. CJ Gardner-Johnson with 8. So, of course, Philadelphia would like this guy. He fits a profile of a type of defensive back that they need, but so he fit the profile of what the Giants needed. Until he's gone, you've got to deal with A.J. Brown. Unless he does something stupid, you got to deal with George Pickens. You got to deal with Terry McLaurin. It sure would be nice to have a 26, 27-year-old, 6'4", sub 4.40 cornerback who is one of the better man coverage guys in the league, who also has position flexibility because he's played in zone coverage. Now, Rick Woolen is on a 1-year deal. It's a 1-year prove-it deal, the same as Greg Newsome is on a 1-year prove-it deal. His taps out at $15 million. I'm pretty sure Greg Newsome's taps out maybe at 10, 12. You can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but it taps out lower. But that is $15 million if he hits all the incentives. Right? That's if he hits all the incentives. Now, people will point to Tariq Woolen's blunder where he was talking noise after shutting down a receiver. He was talking noise and he got a penalty, which gave the team a first down, and then he got beat for a touchdown. And that's all that people will say. But again, people are horrible. They only ever look at the worst of somebody. But these numbers cannot be ignored. Woolen has 12 interceptions, 53 pass breakups during his 4 years with Seattle. Yeah. That's real live production. That's not theoretical. This season, arguably his worst, right? Arguably his worst, 41 tackles. They say he's afraid to tackle. 41 tackles, 1 interception, 12 passes defensed, 54.2 completion percentage. That is what Rick Woolen has been putting out, right? Since 2022, Rick Woolen has 45 forced incompletions. That is 5th amongst all cornerbacks. But the Giants got Greg Newsome. And shout out to the IC revenge. Newsome is $3 million guaranteed. It can get all the way up to $10 million. Right? Playing the bargain bin game. If your quarterback is on a rookie deal and your top wide receiver is on a rookie deal, right? And your running back is on a rookie deal, and you've got a defensive tackle who's going to be a part of your future on a rookie deal, and you've got one of your elite edge rushers that's on a rookie deal. At what point do you have to do things that say, hey, we got to spend the money now? Because if you don't spend the money now, right? If you don't spend the money now, then where do you spend it? Now, I'm saying all of that, and I can 1,000% admit I don't know if they reached out to Woolen, and I don't know if Woolen was interested. I do know that Woolen was a day 2 signee. We can argue about whether or not Woolen would have come and whatever. We don't have to argue about the fact that he was a day 2 signee, which means if he was a day 1 signee and the Giants went and put the pressure on him day 1, do they get the job done before Philly ever comes into play? Philly had their eye on the cornerback. Funny enough, a cornerback that ended up going to Tennessee, and they immediately turned their attention to Woolen. The Giants had their eye on their cornerback and seemingly immediately turned their attention to Newsome. They went from a guy that they were clearly going to pay more than $10 million a year, right? Cordell Flott wasn't going to sign for no $10 million a year. So they pivoted from that guy and then went directly to Newsome. And how do I know that they went directly to Newsome day 2? Because he was signed before I could get my article uploaded. I had to go back in and rewrite the article because they now had Newsome as the pivot for Flott. I just was like, I don't know if I like it. That's all. Again, my problem is that Newsome at his height, Newsome at the height of who he was as a cornerback, 2023, does not compare to Rick Woolen at his height. And if we're saying that these guys are second-tier cornerbacks because they were signed on day 2, right? If we're saying these guys are second-tier cornerbacks, don't you want the best? Don't you want the guy who is the guy of the second tier? unless your plan is to go into the draft and get a cornerback. But you don't have a lot of draft capital. And we're still wondering who's going to be your starting guard. Right? The Evan Neal talk's been quiet. There's been rumors that says that people on the inside actually like Evan Neal, and there could be something being worked to bring Evan Neal back. Evan Neal would 1,000% match the type of offensive lineman that we've seen for the Ravens. In fact, I thought that Evan Neal had a chance to be a Raven this offseason when Harbaugh was still in play there. I said, don't be surprised if he walks over to the Ravens. Don't be surprised if he walks over to the Eagles. So maybe they're looking at Evan Neal and going, oh, well, maybe he could be, the answer as a guard. And I'm with you, Mazzella. I have been screaming for Evan Neal to be a guard for as long as we can remember, right? Don't know if it's going to happen. But mark my words, he's going to land somewhere. They need a guard. They need a wide receiver. You can't go in free agency to get a wide receiver because these wide receivers are making money that most of them do not deserve. I'm sorry. I love Cordell Flott. I would never pay. Not Cordell Flott. I love Wan'Dale Robinson. I would never pay Wan'Dale Robinson $18 million a year. What he does is not unique. It's not special. He's a high volume target producer. He's a high volume target producer. What does that mean? That means he needs a lot of balls in his hands. Pause. He needs a lot of footballs thrown to him in order for him to be effective. 140 targets with Malik Neighbors, 140 targets without Malik Neighbors. And the height of that is just barely 1,000 yards. Why do you guys think I'm so excited about Isaiah Likely? I'm going to tell you why. As I said yesterday, I think Isaiah Likely can do every single thing that Wan'Dale Robinson can do, except he's in a 6'5", 250-pound package. I think he has better hands. Clearly, he has a higher catch radius or a wider catch radius. You can throw him screen passes. He can make people miss. He can run guys over. He can run away from people. Go and look at the little clips that I put up of his catch radius and his great, which is his run after the catch, and tell me if I give him 140 targets, you can't look me in the eye and tell me he's not going to have more than barely 1,000 yards. If I give Isaiah Likely, right? If I give Isaiah Likely 140 targets as a slot receiver, essentially, he is 1,000% going to have more yards per reception, and more touchdowns than Wan'Dale Robinson. Stamp it. Why? Because he's 6'5" and 250 plus pounds. He's going to be a better blocker on the perimeter. Why? Because he's 6'5" and 250 pounds. I'm really excited about it. Some name, our name 188, who just looking to be an a-hole. Evan Neal is garbage. Healthy, scratch garbage. So you guys really out there think that he just was not good and that's why he was a healthy scratch in a lot of these games? Y'all really think that Evan Neal he was so horrible that he could? No. He was out of the way so that they could quiet you guys. that all of the BS that was around his name, they tried to get rid of it. Y'all don't think that that stuff really happens, but it does. Y'all don't think that there are guys out there not making teams because they come with way too much talking, way too much lip. They come with way too much baggage, stuff that has nothing to do with them. But it does. I'm not out here telling you Evan Neal is all pro, all world. I'm not telling you guys that. I'm telling you that his development has been fumbled, and then it was straight up not even like considered. That's all. Likely will be a monster with Dart and Neighbors. Theo will be a big seam target too. Can let Neighbors roam the field, missing the X like Omar Cooper. I think that I think that with a guy like Isaiah Likely in the fold, because you do have Theo Johnson as your inline tight end, there's a chance that a lot of times they're going to be playing in 12 personnel. And in 12 personnel, you might see Isaiah Likely split out wide as the X. I'm telling you guys, the stuff that people were talking about doing with with the stuff that they were talking about doing before with other tight ends, you can do it with Likely. Likely is a legitimate wide receiver. I don't know who this dude, our name 188 is, but he is funny. He says Evan Neal is 1 year away from being out of the league. You just don't know how offensive line play works in the NFL. There are no positions that get more opportunities than offensive linemen. There's not another position. Evan Neal is going to kick around the NFL for 10 plus years. If he wants to. Because you can't teach his size, you can't teach his athleticism. He's probably a lot more mature, and he's going to go places that are not going to judge him because he was a number 1 overall or because he was a top 5 pick that didn't pan out because he was misused. It's not his fault. By the way, it's going to happen to some tackles in this draft. It happened to a guy last year. The Patriots took a guy that they knew they should put at guard. They put him at tackle, and then he got absolutely abused all playoff long. Eric Flowers. Ooh, I love this, right? It says, how is that working out for Eric Flowers? I think you guys might be a little bit, missing about Eric Flowers, who was actually pretty good for everybody but the Giants. Everybody but the Giants, Eric Flowers performed well for. People just remember what they want to remember. They don't remember here. Eric Flowers, 3 years with the Giants, right? On the 4th year, he got traded to Jacksonville. Ladies and gentlemen, he had another 3 years in the league where he started every single game. He started every game for Washington. He got a contract from Miami. He started every game for Miami, then came back to Washington the next year and started every game for Washington. And then just said, yo, I'm good. Am I saying that he was the greatest ever? No. But offensive linemen, they're like pizza. Even when they're bad, they're still okay. Right? They're like pizza. Even when it's bad, you're like, I'll try it again. So like I like it, and people are talking. I mean, I'm assuming people are just finding out that Ricard and Sanders were signed. But yeah, Ricard and Sanders were signed. Shout out to them. Likely and Theo Johnson will be a tough matchup for defenses most weeks. Good to have a good 1-2 punch at tight end. If I'm being honest with you, you're probably not going to believe me. I'm not huge on Theo Johnson. I think Theo Johnson has suspect hands. Right? If we're just being honest about it, like I think Theo Johnson's hands are just okay. I don't think he's dynamic as an athlete. I think he's a good athlete. I don't think he runs after the catch very well. I actually think that Daniel Bellinger is a better like receiving tight end than Theo Johnson is. Theo Johnson is just longer, right? But I think that Isaiah Likely fits the role better than Daniel Bellinger fit the role. And now you can really develop Theo Johnson to be your prototypical inline tight end and stop trying to treat him like he can be a flex end. He's not. Like make him a legitimate Y. Have Isaiah Likely be your H, right? Have Isaiah Likely be your H. Theo Johnson's your Y, and everything should be good with those two. If Malik Neighbors comes back healthy, hey, write it in the chat instead of talking about Evan Neal because this is stupid. If Malik Neighbors is back healthy, I want y'all in the chat to give me your target breakdown, right? What do the targets look like if Malik Neighbors is back and healthy at the start of the season, right? If Malik Neighbors is back at the start of the season, let's go. What do you believe the target breakdown would be? It's not going to be like a 170 something, 140 like it was in his rookie season when he and Wan'Dale Robinson was out there getting all the catches, right? It's going to be different. What does it look like? How many targets for Malik? How many targets for Likely? How many targets for Johnson? How many targets for Slayton? Like, what does that look like? Belichick would have cut Evan Neal 2 years ago. That's not true. Belichick would have moved Evan Neal to guard the year after he struggled at tackle. Don't forget that Belichick had the best offensive line coach in the history of the game. He would have found a way to utilize that talent. We've seen them do it before. Sorry. You're wrong, you're just wrong. I don't want Evan Neal on this team at all. Actually, technically, he's not on this team right now because they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. So he's a unrestricted free agent. But what are y'all going to say? What are you going to say if the Giants do decide to bring him back? Right? That'll be interesting. All right, so let's see what we got right here. Mr. Befron says, come on now. Malik Laborers. I know what you meant, boss. It's all good. 125 targets, 1,300 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. I like that. That's good. I want to know what the full breakdown is going to be like. What's everybody rolling out with if we're talking about, these people? Like, what are we? Can Cam Ward play well enough to make Robinson look good? Y'all thought Cam Ward played bad last year? Okay. I'm just going to say that if you go and look at some of those Cam Ward highlights, that dude's going to be really, really good. right? He's going to be really, really good. The question is hard because we don't know the scheme. We got to get him open without the safety cheating over the top. That will open up Likely in the middle of the field. Likely might be the guy that's stretching the field. He might be one of those guys. Like, he has that ability. And again, we've seen the offense. This is going to be a mixture of what we've seen in Kansas City and in Baltimore. Like Kansas City without Tyreek Hill and Baltimore. That's what this offense is going to look like. Like a mesh of them. And the reason I say that is because I don't think they'll utilize Darius Slayton like they utilize Tyreek Hill, right? Like, they're not going to make him the speedster that we just throw the ball up to every time. You've all talked about it, hands, whatever, right? But it's going to be some amalgamation of that. So there's going to be a lot of short and intermediate receptions and receivers catching the ball on the run, them utilizing the athleticism of the quarterback to make things happen and to extend plays. I wonder what that looks like. It says Leak gets 50%, Likely 20 to 25%, Theo 10 to 20%, Slayton 10 to 15%. That's not a bad breakdown. I think within there we're probably missing some backs, but I get what you're saying, right? Like, of the targets that are just for the receivers, that's kind of how it breaks down. I'm not mad at that breakdown at all. I think that you might switch Slayton and Theo. Slayton's still going to be like a guy, right? Triple pat, 130 for Neighbors, 125 for Likely and Theo. 60 for Neighbors, 50 for the running backs. Oh, 60. I bet that's 60 for Darius Slayton. I think that's interesting, putting both of the tight ends together and counting their targets together. I like that. Counting the running backs' targets together. I like that. I wouldn't be mad at this breakdown. What I don't want to see is Malik Neighbors getting 170 targets, because that means that this team's not doing what they're probably supposed to do. And yeah, triple pat. I got you. Made sense to me. Likely will definitely have around 800 plus yards. I'm telling you guys, I would not be surprised if Isaiah Likely's 1,000-yard receiver next year. Like, if you think about how tight ends are being utilized in the rushing attack that they're clearly putting together, that's why they went out and got the fullback, right? With this rushing attack that they're putting together, and how they're going to work through the play action and the ability to buy time for Jackson Dart, like his own creativity, I think that is going to lead to Isaiah Likely, a guy who understands how to play like that, to him getting a lot of just balls where he's running on the move. And you guys, I don't know if you guys realize just how good of a runner after the catch, right, he is. Like, I'm really excited about that. I know I've been talking a lot about it, but this is what I'm on today. Because I'm really juiced about a new kicker. I'm juiced about a new punter. I think both of those are going to be great. But ultimately, this is what we're talking about, right? So, yeah, like, see, Sean Lee's with me. He thinks Neighbors and Likely will both get 1,000 yards receiving. I definitely, agree. This dude's still over here in the chat talking about Evan Neal. Hey, boss, give it up, man. We don't care. We don't care what you're talking about in there. Oh gosh. 150 for Neighbors, 75 to 80 for Likely, 50 to 60 for Slayton, 40 to 50 for Johnson. I like that too. I think the less for Neighbors means that he's having more explosive plays, and I could see that being good. No, the Ravens backing out of the Crosby deal is not fake. That came across on ESPN. It was validated by ESPN. ESPN is not getting duped out here. Like the actual ESPN, not the ESPN social media feed. Slay and Six will work together this offseason. I expect much better chemistry between the two this year. I do as well. And again, I go back to this when it comes to Darius Slayton. Stop showing me all of his lowlights if you're not going to show me the highlights. Stop showing me all of the lowlights if you're not going to show me the highlights. Because you can't sit back here and tell me that a guy is trash, that a guy is horrible, and then I go and see him have 37 catches for 538 yards. I'm sorry. Those numbers are not trash numbers. Those are the type of numbers that got a wide receiver in Indiana, got him paid over $100 million. Right? Like, that's what you got to remember. So, I don't know. Likely is to me the like he's the force multiplier here. Like, I really do believe that he can make a difference in how this offense flows. Get some more people talking about what the breakdowns are going to be. Neighbors 153, Slayton 85, Likely 90. Johnson 70, running backs 130. That's a lot of passing. I just don't think it's going to be that much passing if this team is achieving how they should be achieving. I just don't like that's a lot of passes. Right? That's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, I'm willing to engage. Alec Pierce, 3,000 receiving yards, 17 touchdowns, 19 yards per catch. He had that in one season. Oh my gosh, they got a steal. They got him for cheap then, huh? That's interesting. I didn't know Alec Pierce was that guy. I didn't know he was that good. Right? I didn't know that. Here's what I know. This is Alec Pierce. Before last year, right, when he had just like an epic run of deep ball passes, that was his best year ever. His next best year was 37 receptions for 824 yards. That's 22.3 yards per reception. That is great. That's fantastic. Right? The year before that, 32 receptions, 514 yards, 2 touchdowns. Those are very similar to the type of numbers that Darius Slayton has been putting up in a number 3 receiver role. A number 3 receiver role. Don't believe me? Just watch. 48 receptions, 740 yards, 8 touchdowns. 50 receptions, 751 yards, 3 touchdowns. Injured 1 year. The next year, 46 receptions, 724 yards, 2 touchdowns. 50 receptions, 770 yards, 4 touchdowns. 2024 with Malik Neighbors there. 39 receptions, 573 yards, 2 touchdowns. 37 receptions, 538 yards, a touchdown. Yo, you can say what you want, but if he had that type of, right, like he could have done that. Now, again, I've acknowledged Slayton, not a number one. You guys think that Alec Pierce is a number one? You think Alec Pierce is better than Malik Neighbors? Come on, man. Will Hyatt have a role in this new offense? I hope not. I think it's time to move on from Hyatt. Right? I think it's time to move on from Hyatt. Likely and Richard means a power running game. Running back, I the second or third. Yeah. Yeah, I think they're gonna run the ball, man. I think they're gonna run the ball. I could see, Scat having a lot of dump outs out the backfield, right? I think Scat can have a lot of dump outs out of the backfield. So, yeah, that should be good. I think that they have a chance to be really good. Tremaine Edwards. Like, are y'all excited about Tremaine Edwards as the middle linebacker? Do you think Tremaine Edwards is better than Bobby Okereke? Do you think that Tremaine Edwards is better than Bobby Okereke? Wagner Charles, my opinion is that Slayton would be a great number 3 wide. We're all on the same page. An elite level number 3 wide receiver. Marcus 8195. I'm assuming that you're saying Tremaine Edwards is a better linebacker than Bobby Okereke. And my question is, because I like the pickup with Tremaine Edwards. He's a great sideline to sideline, run everything down guy. My problem with Tremaine Edmonds is if he's a better inside linebacker than Bobby Okereke, then why has he never put up Bobby Okereke numbers? If Tremaine Edmonds is better than Bobby Okereke, then why is it that he has never put up Bobby Okereke numbers? Tremaine Edmonds has been starting in the league for 8 years. He's 27 years old. His best season, right? His best season was his rookie season. 121 tackles, 80 solo, 2 sacks. Right? That year was the big year where he had all those passes defensed, right? 12 passes defense. He's never done that again. But he's always been a guy who's been able to get his hands on the ball. But my problem is, if he's better, then why has he never put up better numbers than Bobby Okereke? Tremaine Edmonds is 27 years old, right? Tremaine Edmonds is 27 years old. Bobby Okereke is 29 years old. It ain't like we talking about Tremaine Edmonds is 24 and Okereke is 31. Okereke is 2 years older than Tremaine Edmonds. And in the year where you all said that Bobby Okereke sucked, Bobby Okereke had 143 tackles because he was the only person on the field making tackles. Bobby Okereke had 151 tackles when Indy moved on from him. Okereke has 4 seasons that are better than anything Tremaine Edmonds has ever put up statistically. Right? Tackles matter for middle linebackers. Now, as far as passes defense, Okereke probably not as rangy because he's not as long, right? Okereke is 6'2", Edmonds is 6'5". He's got those long limbs. But all I'm wondering is if he is better, why has he never been better? If he's better, why has he never been better? The Giants had one of the worst rush defenses in the league. And you're blaming the guy that got 143 tackles? Or do you blame the fact that they didn't have another linebacker next to him? It was just a rotating like, or why are you not blaming the fact that the safeties didn't tackle worth a damn all year? Why are you not talking about the guys up in the front because they wanted to play this speed front line so much? They had undersized dudes playing that 3 technique, getting ran out of the club. Why are you not talking about that? Why are you blaming the guy that had 143 tackles last year? Y'all just be out here talking, man. Right? Okereke is smaller. We're not going to argue that. He's a smaller guy. And I think Tremaine Edmonds is a really, I think he's a good linebacker. I'm not willing to sit here and tell you that I think he's better than Bobby Okereke right now, because I've never seen him be better than Bobby Okereke. That isn't a diss on Edmonds. Maybe in this defense, a defense that should fit him, right? A defense that should fit him well. Maybe he takes that next step. Maybe he does that next thing. But if we're talking about just on its face, right? Tremaine Edmonds has never been able to produce like Bobby Okereke. And again, he's been in the league since he was 20 years old. He's 27. That's so even though, right? And this is what you have to remember. Even though he's younger, he's been in the league longer than Bobby Okereke has been in the league. Will they pair Sonny Styles with Edmonds? That's a very good question, right? I don't know. You guys know, if y'all listen to me, I'm saying Sonny Styles no matter what. I would be willing to put Sonny Styles and Sonny Styles and Tremaine Edmonds next to each other, because I think that would be a duo of linebackers you don't have to take off the field. They both give you the ability to rush. As blitzers, they both can drop into coverage. They both can carry a slot receiver deep. You got a 6'5" over here and a 6'5", 6'6" over here. Everybody sucks in this dude. This dude is an idiot. I don't normally talk about y'all like that, but bro, you are not smart. Like, everybody can't suck, my guy. Everybody can't suck. Like, it's just not. I got, you know what? So anyway, I think that Styles and I would love to see them two together. I would have really loved to have seen Okereke and him together, because I think they bring some different dynamics. But I would still take Styles and put him next to Edmonds. You need 2 dynamic linebackers. You don't need 1. You need 2. Now, I understand the idea that you should take Caleb Downs, but to me, they have so many safeties. I just don't see them using the first-round pick on Downs when you've got a guy like Tiedemann that you could get in round 2. The guy from Oregon, the free safety from Oregon, who I think might be, I think he's a first-round talent that might drop to the second round, right? And he's a ball hawk. You need ball hawking safeties. I'm going to tell you what the Giants don't need. The Giants don't need another safety who plays better at the second level than they do at the third level. Right? That's what they don't need. You know what else? You don't need three linebackers as starting linebackers because you never put three linebackers on the field anymore. Most teams play nickel as their base. You need depth. And guess what the Giants already have? They have depth linebackers. They just re-signed Micah McFadden. So McFadden as the number 3 linebacker on this team, to me, sounds really good. Edmonds, Styles, McFadden, Muasau. I think you got a really good linebacking group right there. You might be right, Marcus. Like Bobby O may have lost a step, right? He had 143 tackles while losing a step. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Tremaine Edmonds isn't more athletically gifted than Bobby Okereke. I don't think there's any argument about that. Like, of course he is. Is he a better linebacker than Bobby Okereke? You know what Edmonds does? He'll get grabbed up. He doesn't come away as much. There's a ton of linebackers in the draft, by the way. If they don't get Sonny Styles, don't be alarmed. Like if they go somewhere else, I could see them getting Jacob Rodriguez in round 2. That's a guy who was up for the Heisman. There are a ton of linebackers in this draft, and they're going to drop because the idiots in the NFL have made positional value a thing that people are overlooking really good talent to go after guys that they think are just, oh, well, that's where we're supposed to take them at. So you're going to have people reaching for offensive tackles and for edge rushers that probably should go later in the draft over inside linebackers because the positional value of the tackle or the edge is greater than the inside linebacker. There are, I BS you not, there are 20 linebackers in this draft that I think could start day one on the team. Right? I don't think they're taking Carnell Tate. I would be surprised if the Giants took a number 2 wide receiver with the 5th pick. Carnell Tate's not a number 1. And for anybody that tells me that Carnell Tate's a number 1, I'm going to ask them, when have you ever seen Carnell Tate be a number 1? This doesn't mean that Carnell Tate isn't great. I just don't think that the Giants are going to take a number 2 wide receiver with the top 5 pick. That's all. It's not even no beef with Carnell. I think Carnell Tate's going to be really good. I just don't see him going to the Giants. Downs is tier 1. Holland is tier 2. Newman is tier 3. You take Downs or D-line. I don't agree because I don't think that Downs is a generational, once-in-a-lifetime safety. I think that Tienneman is just below him. I think that the kid out of Toledo is just below him. He makes more plays. Like he gets more balls away from receivers. Right? Like I don't think Downs is a generational talent. He's not a generational size for a linebacker. I mean, for a safety. Like if we could just start there. He's not a generational speed for a safety. I think he's really good. I don't think he is, oh my gosh, we gotta mortgage we gotta say forget all the other safeties that we have in order to get him, when there are other people in this draft that I think are really good safeties. The kid from Oregon, Tienneman, the kid from Toledo, McNeil Warren. I like both of those guys. They're not, I don't think they're 2 Downs level, but I think that both of them are probably better ball hawks than Downs is. I think Downs is special at the second level. I think Downs is going to struggle to cover slot guys. I think Downs is a guy who is a roamer. He's a playmaker, right? But not necessarily a traditional third level safety. The Giants need a third level safety. They don't have a true legitimate third level safety. They need one of those. So it's not a diss on Downs. I just don't think he's that guy. Carnell Tate had Jeremiah Smith next to him. And then the year before that, he had Jeremiah Smith, and he had the kid that went to the Bucks. I'm struggling with his name. It'll come back to me in a second, but he had the kid that went to the Bucks there as well. So he was the number 3 wide receiver. Then he was the number 2 wide receiver. Like, that's who he is. He's a receiver that is a good part of an overall group. That's right. At Buka, at Mecca at Buka. Carnell Tate's not a number 1 wide receiver, and that's okay. That's all right. Is Minkah Fitzpatrick a generational safety? By the way, he's bigger than Caleb Downs. An inch is an inch, right? 6'1", 207, 6 feet, 205. Is Minkah Fitzpatrick a generational talent at safety? Because Minkah Fitzpatrick is really good, but he's not a generational talent. He's not. So I'm not taking Minkah Fitzpatrick with a top 5 pick when I already have other safeties in the fold, and there are safeties that could be had in the second round. This is interesting. And shout out to Eric Novella. I appreciate you. By the way, if y'all want to, drop a little something for your boy, I'd appreciate it as well. If you're on X and you're watching, by the way, if you're on X and you're watching, and shout out to all of you that are on X watching, can you just come on over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button and then go right back to X? You ain't even got to say it. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you know anytime that we got a show coming on. Okay, so somebody thinks that he's a generational talent. But okay. Brian Thomas Jr. for a second, then drop back and get picks. I don't mind if the Giants wanted to go and get BTJ to be a legitimate X receiver alongside Malik Neighbors. I actually think it would be a good story. It would fit. My only issue is BTJ going to be okay with being like the third option? Right? Is BTJ going to be all right being the third option? Because I don't think he comes in here and he's number 2 option. I really do think that Isaiah Likely is going to be that dude. If he's okay with being the third option and what that's going to mean for his pockets when he comes up for free agency, then cool. Go get him. A second round for a guy who's a first round talent? Cool. I'm with it. I appreciate y'all, Broadway. Try to give insight. I'm not saying that I'm right all the time. I'm just trying to give you like ways to think about it that's different than maybe the way you're thinking about it. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what that dude is talking about. I'm so confused. Ed Reed, 5'11", 205. Troy Polamalu, 5'10", 207. You're telling me you think that he is Ed Reed? Troy Polamalu, I actually could get on board with, right? Because I think that Troy Polamalu is a roamer like Downs is. When Troy Polamalu came out, he wasn't a generational talent. Troy Polamalu found the right defense, the right fit. He flourished. Like, is that going to be Downs? And again, do the Giants need a guy who operates better at the second level than they do at the third. That's all I'm saying about Downs. He's more of a second level operator than a third. That dude ain't nowhere near Ed Reed. Y'all got to stop with the disrespect. Ed Reed is a generational talent, meaning wherever you put him, he was a killer. Second level, he was a killer. Third level, he was a killer. You could bring him down to the line of scrimmage. He is a killer. Downs is not that. Downs is not Ed Reed. He wasn't Ed Reed in college. He's not going to be Ed Reed in the league. We got to stop. And Ed Reed wasn't a top 5 pick. Ed Reed wasn't a top 5 pick. And that was before they were hitting you with all of the positional value BS that's going on. Jags are not trading BTJ. It was all smokes. I can't say that, Marcus. I would not be surprised if the Jags trade BTJ because they have a guy who does exactly what BTJ does. They traded for him. And they gave him a contract extension, right? You got Parker Washington there. They gave him money. They're not going to play Travis Hunter as much on offense, but they're still going to play Travis Hunter on offense. I'm not saying they should. I don't think they should. I don't think you give up on a rookie salary that was so good for you one year, but it does look weird for him in that offense. He doesn't seem to fit for whatever reason that is. I don't know why. For whatever reason, he does not seem to fit what they have going on there. So I think from that standpoint, you have to ask the question, was it just a bad season? Did he need to get back in the lab? Was his rookie season so great that it kind of gave him a big head and he didn't work as hard in his second year, and that's why he didn't have the type of year? Will him just getting back to the basics and getting back in the lab, will that solve a lot of his problems from last year? Or does he just not fit this offense? Is he just not a good fit? Is he just not is it not gelling well for him? I think all of those could be possible things that you wanna talk about, like that will matter. Again, I think that Caleb Downs is really good. If the Giants decide that they want to go with Caleb Downs and draft him at 5, I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be mad, right? I'm not going to sit back and go, oh, that was stupid. They don't know what they're doing, blah, 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 blah. I am going to bring up the fact that I think that there were opportunities to get really good tight end talent. I'm sorry, safety talent in the second round and maybe even into the third round. I don't think it's necessary in order to do that in round number 1. That's just my opinion. Again, I could be wrong. And if he is a generational talent, guess what? I'm going to come on here and say, hey, yo, I was wrong. He was a generational talent. I'll come on and say it. The Giants gave up 4.6 yards per run, 2,300 yards on Okerike's watch. Okay. All on the middle linebacker. The nose guard ain't got nothing to do with that. The 3 technique has nothing to do with that. The defensive ends, edge rushers don't have anything to do with that. Hey, can you tell me where the Giants were most vulnerable this year? I can. It was off tackle. Guess who plays off tackle? The edge rushers. Once Kayvon Thibodeau went down, who was doing a really good job, right? Once he went down, and it was Abdul Carter, and it was Bud Clark's another one. Somebody just said Bud Clark's another safety who's got goods. He's probably a day 3 guy for me, but I think he can come in and be a legitimate level 3 safety, right? Like once those 2 dudes got hurt, once those two dudes was on the edge and all they cared about was rushes, pass rushes, the other linebacker not run fitting correctly. Like, don't tell me it's Bobby Okereke's fault when he had 143 tackles. Tell me where the other person's tackles are. Tell me where everybody else's tackles are. Who's your favorite player out of the draft? My favorite, I'm assuming you mean the draft this season. And for me, my favorite like player, my most intriguing player, the guy that I think who has the best upside is Arvell Reese. Because I really think that Arvell Reese is an off-ball linebacker. But I also think that he has legitimate defensive end ability. Right? Like, I also think he has legitimate defensive end ability. And so, or edge rusher ability. So if he's in a 3-4 and you want to play him as a legitimate 3-4 outside linebacker, I think that that's the perfect position for him. But I also think that unlike Abdul Carter, unlike Micah Parsons, like, he's a better linebacker than those guys were. And that's why it made sense for those guys to put their hands in the dirt. I think he wants to put his hand in the dirt because he thinks that's where the biggest bag is. And he might not be wrong, right? But I also know that when you're a really good linebacker, you can play for an extremely long time. So I wouldn't be shocked about that. Shane Bowen owes Bobby Okereke a percentage of any NFL checks he receives from here on out. Yeah. Anybody wonder why Shane Bowen didn't immediately get a job? Why we don't know what he's got going on? Like, why isn't Shane Bowen on the radar of guys you want to make a defensive coordinator? You want to know why? Because he wasn't good at defensive coordinator with the Titans. When they go and look up the history books, go look up the records. When they hired Shane Bowen, I said it was a horrible hire, that he wasn't good with the Titans and he wasn't going to be good with the Giants. And guess what? I was right. That defense didn't make any sense. What he was trying to do didn't make any sense. It didn't fit the personnel that he had. And then there was no rhyme or reason or logic to why he was trying to do whatever it is he was trying to do. Right? So that's what it was. I think that Shane Bowen got Brian Dable fired. Ego got Brian Dable fired because he went with Shane Bowen and didn't stay with Wink Martindale. And now everybody has to figure it out from here. Right? I think everybody's got to figure it out from there. Any chance he falls? Are you talking about Arvell Reese? Dylan, help me out. Any chance he falls? LOL. I'm assuming you're talking about Reese. People that speak against Bobby Okereke are mad. Are made down fields, not behind the line of scrimmage. You want Bobby Okereke to have more tackles for loss. Here's the problem, and this is football. So let's talk real football for a second. All right. Let's talk real football for a second. When you're a linebacker, right? Your defensive line, they all have a gap that they are supposed to account for. You as a linebacker, you have a particular gap you're supposed to account for. Your other linebacker has a gap. These are called run fits. So when you fit in, it's supposed to be where the running back only has one place to go. When someone overruns their run fit, like Mikey McFadden, remember Mikey McFadden would try to overcompensate because he was trying to beat the offensive lineman to the spot, and he would get out of position and they would cut back into where he was supposed to be at. That was happening all last year. That was happening all last year. Backs were able to get to the edge or run off tackle when edge rushers were pushed wide. But your Mike linebacker has a run fit that is in the A gap. It's not in the C gap. So when the running back is running towards the gap where your Mike linebacker is, and then he's able to cut back because the other defenders are not in their proper gaps because they did a spin move to get away from an offensive lineman and now they're out of position, or they just slanted inside because that was the path of least resistance and now they're out of position. There's nothing that your Mike linebacker can do about that except try to catch them before they run for a touchdown. And so, like, yes, in football, you have to have everybody working together, right? In football, you have to have everybody working together. And if people aren't operating within their run fits, then that's what it's going to be bad. People act like the run defense was bad just in 2025. It was bad in 2024 as well. That was when a lot of people thought Micah McFadden should be like the future of this team at linebacker. But if you turn on the film, you see McFadden missing tackles left and right. Bobby Okereke had more tackles this year than he had last season. How does that happen? Even if it's him having to chase down guys making 4-yard and 5-yard tackles, why does he have to make 4 and 5-yard tackles? Because somebody's not in the position that they're supposed to be in that allows them to get tackles at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield. And Okereke still gets, he still gets a good amount of things. When you're the only linebacker there, it's difficult, man. When you're the only consistent one there, it's difficult. You want to know how they combated that when Wink Martindale was there? They blitzed. That way, people didn't have a chance to get out of their run gap, their gaps. They didn't have a chance to get out of their run fits. They just had to blitz, right? Like, I think that's part of what made it. That's why, if you remember, under Wink, the safeties had a lot of tackles because people had to bounce the ball out because there was nowhere to run up the middle. They had to bounce out, and those safeties were coming up, filling the alleys like they're supposed to do. And in those years, I believe Julian Love was the leading tackler one year, and then the next year, I think it was either Bobby Okereke was the leading tackler, and the safety was the second, or it was the opposite. I can't remember right now, but like that's how it is. That's how it is. So like, it's interesting if you understand how football works, then you do it. If you don't, you don't. It's cool. And if you're trying to be a troll or whatever, like this dude, whatever his name is, like, it's cool. Y'all let him troll. He ain't hurting nobody. Just keep on running them numbers up, my friend. I appreciate you staying on with us and talking nonsense. You give us something to talk about. Should the G-men trade their first round of 27 to the Jets to switch from 5 to 2? Ugh. Nah. Like, who are you getting at 2 that you can't get at 5? Right? You don't need another edge rusher. Like, you don't need to go to get an offensive lineman at 2. There's no receiver that's going to be there at 2 that you need to reach for. Nah, I don't think they should do that. If anything, I think they should look to trade down if they're not interested in getting if they're not interested in getting, one of those elite edge rushers or Styles, right? Like, I think Styles is the guy for me. I don't think you have to move in order to get him at 5. I think it'll work perfectly for him to be there at 5 because everybody else up there, they're getting quarterback and edge rushers. Yeah. So I think Styles goes there. I think that Styles is really worth it at 5. If anyone's asking, I think Styles is actually worth it at 5. I think he's there. Would you trade Kayvon Thibodeau for BTJ? You guys know that I'm a much bigger fan of Kayvon Thibodeau than a lot of other Giants fans, than a lot of Giants fans are out there. I think that he gets a lot of flack because he doesn't get sacks. But I think there's so much more to being a defensive lineman than just getting sacks. And the Giants have lost several really good defensive linemen over the years because they didn't put up big sack numbers, right? People ran Leonard Williams out of town, said he wasn't good because he didn't get sack numbers. He was the catalyst on the defensive line that just won a championship. He was the dude on the interior there. They said the same thing about, what was it, BJ Hill they got rid of years ago. They had Ashawn Robinson a few years ago. He didn't have sacks, so they got rid of him. He's a really good defensive interior lineman, and you wonder why the run defense is bad. Well, if you don't have really good interior defensive line play next to your all-pro nose guard, and now you've got him playing 2 techniques and 3 techniques, then yeah, nah, I'm good. Hey, Bit Dash, I got a beef with you yesterday, man. I was on your pod late night. You were doing your thing. I was putting some stuff out there, and you ain't even shout your boy out, man. I was like, dang, Bit Dash don't even got no love for your boy no more. I'm only playing, man. Great job yesterday. Love what you were talking about. Love your engagement with the audience. Salute to him. If you don't know, go over there and subscribe. Bit Dash knows. Go check out his podcast. Out there in California, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're an East Coaster, you can listen to him later on and get that West Coast vibe with your Giants content. So shout out to him. Shout out to you, Bit Dash. Appreciate you jumping in. I think that what I'm looking for out of these next couple of days in free agency isn't a big splash. I'm looking for them to start filling some depth needs. And Dash says, you did. Okay. I was gonna have a giant issue if you didn't. I'm just kidding. I'm only kidding with you, big dog. Apparently Bit Dash doesn't know. That's hilarious. That is funny. Y'all are funny tonight. Yeah, I might have been out, or I might have just been behind when you asked the question about Bo. But ask it here, because I would love to know what you were thinking about Bo. I look at it and I go, where I was happy, where they succeeded, where they missed. For me now, it's okay. Let's rally and let's turn our attention to the draft. What's needed, or what did free agency tell us about what they're thinking for the people on the roster still? I'm gonna tell you, the fact that they didn't go out and get a high profile cornerback tells me they might not be done with Tay Banks. That this defensive regime might think that they can get the best out of Tay Banks. And if that's the case, you're not going to find a more athletic cornerback out here in these streets than Tay Banks. So I'm all for them trying to rejuvenate that career and get him back on the path that he was on after his first season, before a lot of you turned your backs on him, right? So we will see how that works out. I think that says something. I think that they the fact that they re-signed Illuminor points to the fact that Marcus Bowe might be headed to guard. Because I can't see them utilizing him as a swing tackle again this year. I think you gotta get if he's talented, right, and he can be a difference maker, right? I see putting him at guard, and then allowing him to flourish there. And if for some reason you need a tackle, if one of those two tackles go down, then you can move him to tackle and then put the backup in. I don't know, Bit Dash. I don't know if this means moving on from Runyon, but if you guys know me, I wasn't the biggest Runyon fan from the beginning. And this is where I think it would be interesting to have Evan Neal, right, come in. I think this is where you could see them kind of run it back with Evan Neal. But even if they don't, the draft is full of guards who I think could step in and play year one. The draft is full of it. I wouldn't be surprised if they moved on from Runyon. I wouldn't be mad if they moved on from Runyon. I do not support them using or utilizing Marcus Bowe as a swing tackle when he has starter level ability, right? And if they were to re-sign Neal, I would put Neal as the left guard because I want to put a behemoth like Neal next to a behemoth like Andrew Thomas, right? I want to put those two together and let that become one of the best run blocking sides in all of football. Then you could have your finesse side on the other side with Bowe at right guard next to Illuminor. And then in 2 years, when they cut Illuminor, right? Because this is what the Giants do. You just move Bowe right out to right tackle and you keep it moving. Like Neal and Thomas together, to me, is what I've been screaming. Y'all know if you've been with me from the beginning, I've been screaming Evan Neal at left guard ever since they drafted Evan Neal. That is the position that he naturally plays. He's a left side guy. He's a left side offensive lineman, in my opinion. The reason why he struggled with his pass pro on the right side is because he's more left dominant. Evan Neal was not cut, by the way. You can't cut a guy. You can't cut a guy who's a free agent. Evan Neal has done his 4-year bid. He's a free man. You can't cut a free man. But I like that idea. If they bring him back, if they don't, then I still like the idea of Marcus Bowe going to guard to replace Van Roten. And then you got to figure out what you want to do on the left side. You got to figure out whether you want to keep Runyon or you want to cut him, save that money, and replace him with another guy who could be just as effective but probably costs half as much or a third as much, which I think is really easy to do. And again, the draft is full of those guys this year, full of them. So that's what I'm looking at, and so I'm interested to see what happens. I'll be interested to see how all of this plays out. the big news of today, obviously, to recap, Max Crosby not going to be a Raven, at least not right now. Not going to be a Raven. You know who else is not going to be a Raven? Anybody? No? Okay. I'll tell you. Patrick Ricard is not going to be a Raven because he's going to be a Giant. To me, that's the best signing of the day. I know that they got a cornerback that I'm like, okay, all right, maybe he can regain some. I'm not excited about that. To me, the fullback, Patrick Ricard, right? He's the guy who signals to me this team is going to lean in to trying to be really nasty as a running team. And now you put Ricard out there, right? Put Ricard out there, and he's lead blocking in front of a Cam Scatterbo. You never see Scatterbo coming. You just see Ricard, shut your lights out, Scatterbo pops through the line, and then all of a sudden we're off to the races. I love it. I think it's a great opportunity for them to solidify their identity as a physical football team. I like the signing of the kicker Jason Sanders. It signals that they're serious about like trying to change their fortunes at kicker. It's just been too many points left on the board by guys not getting the job done. So we'll be looking for that. The special teams kind of getting a brand new vibrant look under a head coach who was a special teams coordinator. I think that's pretty fitting. That's all the time, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going. Y'all know I don't normally go this long, but I was feeling a little bit like, hey, let's have some fun. Let's talk. And so I promised you guys that I would be here today. I wanted to make sure I kept my promise. And guess what? I will be back tomorrow. Yep, I said it. I will be back tomorrow. So look for me again tomorrow. That's right, 3 days in a row. I just said it. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back to talk anything day 3. We'll be talking about all of the things that they've got going on. Maybe we'll have a more conversation about this about this situation that we have out here at defensive back, because man, everything in my brain is telling me that they think Tay Banks is going to be able to do the thing. So make sure that you go over to the New York Giants on SI, check out everything that we're doing over there. Make sure that you come back over here. If you haven't already, hit that hit that subscribe button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That way you know everything that's going on over there. Until next time, I am Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue.